You're on the rant couch where I rant about whatever my $15 a month plus patrons want me to rant about. You can get one of these by being one of those. This one is for Bruno, who says, "Hey Digi, please rant about cancel culture." You know, I'd never really given much thought to it until right when I read this, just before turning on the camera. But I do think cancel culture is possibly one of the most retarded things that's ever happened. I think it's incredibly dumb because of the fact that you literally cannot cancel a human being unless you kill them. And we're not allowed to do that. And this idea of canceling someone, it's like, oh, we're going to remove them from, I don't know, everything, deplatform them, take their job, take everything they've got because they're canceled. Well, I mean, that guy is still alive. You know, he's still around. What are you going to do when he comes back? When he has to live? Like, is this a condemnation to death? Like, if you try to take everything away from somebody, what is left? You know, we've had just recently our first suicide as a result of cancel culture by way of the Me Too movement, you know, and I don't know if the guy who was accused had done it. I mean, the fact that he committed suicide suggests he might have, but like, is that a fair trade? Of like, this guy did something kind of sexually gross, you know, and it wasn't even like, it wasn't, I don't know, I didn't read everything about it, but it didn't get the impression that he had outright raped the girl. It was just that he had done some like weird shit that she was uncomfortable with, and when she came out about it, he fucking killed himself. And I have to look at that and say, like, that's what cancel culture is aiming for, right? Like, that's what we want, right? Is this guy did something wrong, let's kill him. You know, let's drive him to suicide. Let's take away all of his opportunities, all of his connections, all of his friendships. Let's take away his audience. Let's kill him. And, like, the amorality of that should be flatly obvious, you know? If anything, I would almost say it should be illegal, and I wouldn't make it illegal because I'm not, you know, into making authoritative decisions about speech, but, like, it is definitely extremely harmful. I mean, it's a form of mass bullying, and even if the person committed a crime, we have a system for dealing with that, you know? We have a judicial system for dealing with people who've committed crimes, and I appreciate that much of the time what people are trying to do is they're trying to say, oh, well, like, there's no way to penalize this person, so let's socially penalize them. But it's like, again, there is a system for punishment, and if we decide to take it into our own hands as a society, we're doing so in a very blanketed and out of control way that doesn't really make considerations for the deservement of the crime. It's like, you know, like, what is actually a fitting punishment for somebody who's done something like that? You know, the courts have a decision. They have a way of doing it. But, like, if we're all just dogpiling on this person and just calling for, you know, anything bad you can do to them, even if it's just, you know, spreading the word about what they've done, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like an equivalent exchange to me. And, you know, I worry about the ramifications of it, but I also just think that, you know, if the person doesn't kill themselves, it's just ineffective. I mean, I have an interesting relationship with blocking commenters, right? Because there's some people who are very adamantly against blocking. They're just like, oh, blocking somebody, it's a bitch move, it's a violation of their, it's, you know, they say dumb shit like it's a violation of free speech, which is obviously not true, but the other side is like, you know, block everyone who offends you in any way. And what you have to understand is that blocking someone doesn't make them disappear. It doesn't even deny them access to what you're doing. You know, like, if somebody blocks me on Twitter, I can very easily just go over to incognito browser and look at their page, and all they've done is make me mad. All they've done is incensed me in some way, you know? And I still do block people because sometimes people are just so petty and obnoxious that I just block them right away because I think, well, nothing you have to say will ever contribute anything to me, you know, so I don't care if you're gone. But, like, I've seen people change and redeem themselves. And, you know, for instance, And I don't know if I would, say that he's necessarily redeemed himself, because I'm not going to make that kind of judgment necessarily. But what the what? This was a guy who made some videos shitting on me, and then incensed the people he knew to spam me with it constantly for a long period of time. And whenever he was criticized, he would act as though he didn't care and it was just a joke, even though he was very serious in the things that he was critical of, right? Eventually, he felt bad. He made a whole video about like why he had felt this animosity towards the AniTube community and towards me, sort of apologetically, and is trying to fit in and be like a better member of the community. And I still have him blocked because I don't think I'm not so forgiving that I'm just going to be like, oh, you're good now? Well, then, oh, then everything's fine. It's like, well, you pissed me off. So, like, I'm going to continue to block you because if it's causing you some kind of emotional distress, then welcome to my world, But, like, eventually, maybe I'll unblock him, especially if there's a good reason to. I mean, like, what am I gonna go read what tweets? I don't care, or maybe he want. I guess in this case, if I've blocked him, then it's more about him being able to read my stuff. But you know, um, if I felt like, okay, I'm not angry at this guy anymore, or like, I feel bad about having done this, maybe I'll eventually unblock. But it's like, he's not gone. Blocking him did not get rid of him. Not that I thought it would. It was just like, I know these people who I've blocked. I know they're still around. There's people who were enemies of mine from years ago who people who used to be friends who became enemies, and I discommunicated from them, and I ignore them at every pass, but like they're still around. I just went to Otakon and last month in July, and like just walking around, I would encounter, I didn't like say anything to them, but I would encounter people who I have long histories with of, oh, I know this guy hates me. Oh, I know this guy made a video about why I'm a piece of shit, and they're there because of course they are. They're not dead. They're not gone. Even if I tear them to shreds publicly, or I tell everybody like, oh, this guy's a fucking piece of shit, don't talk to him or whatever. Like, he's still alive. And is that what we don't want? Like, are we trying to kill these people? And if so, admit it, like, admit you're trying to kill them for what they've done. You think that they don't deserve to live because you think that the law is not extreme enough, basically, and it stands on whatever they've done, I guess. I don't know. All around, it rubs me really the wrong way to see people sort of enacting this vigilante internet justice on people in ways that our society doesn't really understand how to deal with yet. Like, we don't know how to measure the effects of what this is doing to people, other than, knowing directly that at least one guy killed himself over it, and so almost instantly. So we have to look at that and say, okay, is that okay? Is that something that we want to be able to handle happen in our society? Not that it doesn't happen anyways, even offline and for all time. People who feel like they've, that like they're never going to have a place in society again often do this, but, we also criticize that in our media. Witch hunting is usually seen as problematic.